is.
Yeah, we'll see.
There it is. All right, well, it is 3 o'clock.
Okay.
So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I don't see anybody on Zoom yet, but maybe they'll join us. I'm not sure. Hi, Jay, how are you? Welcome.
How are you doing? Hi, I'm Jay.
So I thought it would be really helpful. Mike's gonna do an intro, but first I thought you guys could all introduce yourselves because I don't know that everybody knows everybody. And I think it's really important. So I'm gonna start over here with you, my friend.
Carol. Debbie. Joan.
Robin. Mary Jane, Sharon, Carol. And I'm Terry Henry. I'm one of the.
And my husband Joe. Joe is he out there loitering?
Yes,
Literally loitering. And then I don't know if we have anybody on. Oh, we do. Annette, hello. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. So Annette, we had everybody introducing themselves. Kim's coming in. Oh, we got, good, good.
Yeah, we've got more chairs.
All right. Yeah, we have an owl that will turn to focus on the person talking. So,
Wow, yes.
Kim, oh yeah. And
Oh,
then
he took
Joe.
away my thunder. I thought I was gonna be the token male.
I'm
Aw.
glad you're here because I didn't want to be the only male
See,
either.
there you go. That's good. We got Lori and Daisha. So, I'm gonna turn it over to Mike. You're gonna tell a story about yourself and who you are. What do you need?
Just when I get ready to,
You want to share your slideshow?
well, no,
Oh.
how do I start that?
This, you just have to hit okay. And play.
Okay,
And if not, Daisha will help, because I'm gonna keep an eye on the front door to make
Okay.
sure.
Did anyone sign in from Zoom?
Yes, I've got a net on there. Might just be a net so far. So,
Okay, is there a sign-in sheet?
we were gonna use one of these. We had to.
Included in the number.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but I don't know if there's gonna be enough room on here, so we might need to do a stack of paper.
I'm just gonna go later.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah.
Carol, if you want to, yeah, Carol got a fancy legal pad, so. All right. Annette, just so you know, there's gonna be a video. that
Okay.
We are not allowed to share, so we're watching it on the TV here, so we put it in the chat on
Okay.
which video it is, so you can watch it whenever we're playing it, okay?
Very good, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. All right.
welcome.
All right, Mike, I'm gonna let you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Just a little bit about me, not to toot my horn. I'm not really an official active shooter teacher, although I've taken this course 3 times. And I'm just a little bit about my background and the reason why. I was involved with industrial safety for 15 years and also incident commander at the place for a number of those years. And then I was involved with the federal government as a per diem employee, as a safety officer of a disaster team and a 15 years upon additional, along with that, with the state for as a disaster team safety officer. So I have a lot of experience in safety. This course I've taken 3 times because of those different areas that I've been into, and some things are updated since then. In saying that, that's kind of what qualifies me to teach this, and I've talked to an instructor also who does teach us on a regular basis. I am a former field training officer at Emergent Care. Jackie keeps saying I'm a training officer. And when I went partially retirement, I had to give up that position. I am still an emergency medical responder with Emergent Care, and some of you know, I'm also a CPR instructor. Now, and then saying that, how many of you have ever taken an active shooter course? Okay, so you have some background on what that is. So I'm going to give you some words to think about while this video is playing. It's a good video. It's a real short one, but it's real good. And then I'm going to open up for discussion. I'm going to talk a little, and I'm going to see if you have any thoughts about these words. I'm not going to tell you what they mean right now because I've kind of put them in the back of your mind. Soft targets, exits. What do you do if you see something? Situational awareness, gun-free zone. And what do you do if you have a gun and you're and an active shooter happens? And the sign-in sheet, which she mentioned, I'll talk about that too. Okay, where is the remote again?
Got it right here, Mike.
Okay.
Do your tech support.
You can-
What? Oh, I thought you did. Oh, we gotta put it in for Annette. Okay. Sorry, Annette, we're gonna put the link in right now for you.
Okay,
All right, it was in the Teams
While
chat.
she's doing it, don't focus on, just keep those words in the back of your mind, those statements in the back of your mind. Don't focus on them. So I want you to focus on this. I'll explain all that when we get to that.
Sorry, technology.
That's okay. I think.
Ah. This- That is not, Daisha, could you come here, please? Maybe I did the classic teams.
It doesn't matter.
All right, it was very strange.
I know.
Okay, I'm just kidding. Sorry, Annette.
you know that, I can listen too, Heather.
Yeah, maybe we'll just do that. Oh, wait,
Do
here,
that.
we do have it. Okay, hold on. All right, we're gonna try one thing here. So I'm gonna copy this, right? Oh.
Or at least I'm gonna try to have a sense of humor.
So just go to the URL and go.
Oh, my gosh, sorry.
And at the beginning of this, you're gonna see a gentleman come in before everything happens. I want you to see if he knows anything strange about it.
Oh. Oh, thank you. Okay. We're gonna put this in.
And then,
Daisha's my tech support.
do you want this at the top as well?
We
Or
could,
it's not?
yeah.
Actually, we can't do it.
We can't, cause yeah, that's okay. All right. So we're dropping that in the chat for you, Annette.
Did you get it, Annette?
Yes,
Okay, perfect.
thank
All right.
you.
Daisha. All right, Mike.
Go ahead.
Hope it didn't go away. It didn't. Good. Okay.
It may feel like just another day at the office. But occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. The last resort, if your life is at risk. Whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
Heard some. I noticed when he had to attack him, when they attacked. When they said you act with aggression, does anybody know what that means?
As far as you can get.
Once you make that commitment, you're going all the way. And that means that you have to kill the person. I hate to say that, but I mean, that was the last training I was in, that's what the instructor said. You have to make that decision. If you don't, I mean, your life is on the line at that point. Okay. Anybody know what a soft target is? Those are words I threw out.
Somebody right
Anybody want to guess? Huh?
Somebody right out.
Anything where a lot of people are gathered, and if you notice, they use soft targets in schools, what do you call it, schools, churches, you know. Let me go back a little bit. I used to teach, I wrote a program called Workplace Violence. I used to teach over 20 years ago. Okay, the first active shooter course that I took, because that's where it's evolved from. It evolved from, does anybody remember when the first post office shooting was? People would go postal, then it went to workplace violence. You went in and shot your boss, and you started shooting everybody. The first time I took an active shooter course was on the one disaster team. I walked up to the instructor afterwards because I had written the program for workplace violence. And I looked at him and I said, "You just made my program look antiquated." And that is how far in the wrong direction we're going. Okay, so soft targets are any place, mall, you know, churches, anything. This could be a soft target. We've got a number of people in here. So I'm glad they're being proactive to do this, so you're aware of it. Okay. Now, what I would suggest after we're done, go home and pull that video up. It's on YouTube, there's a number of them. you know, show it to your kids, your family, your grandkids. Everybody should be aware of this. And you're gonna find out where the statistics are in a minute. Exits. Last class I took, the instructor, what he does with his people is he'll have everybody come into the room, and I used to do this since I learned it when I taught at the Barber Center, CPR. If we had, he turns out the lights, goes, how would you get out of here if you had an emergency? And everybody points to the room or the door they came in. Okay, so I used to do this down at the Barber Center when I teach down there. I said, where's your exits? And I'd always wait till they pointed to this one door, and it wasn't an exit. It was a door to another room. So the point I'm making when I took that last class, that the person sitting next to me was right after they had the mall shooting, if you remember, they had something happen at the mall. Everybody, the manager from Penny's was sitting next to me. Everybody was running to those exits. You know, you don't have to do that. Every one of those stores go out to a door going out, and in the mall, there's doors going out to the different hallways there, so you don't have to run to the main exit. So I'll tell you the same thing I tell everybody else. If you go to the mall, walk the mall, get a mental picture of where those exits are. And you're probably wondering, why is he telling me all this? This will never happen here. Okay, I'll touch on that in a minute. If you see something, report it. If it's suspicious, report it. That guy in the video, did anybody see anything suspicious about him? Backpack. Good point. Sunglasses in a building. Okay, I'm glad you said backpack. Here's why. I'm an emergency medical responder for the Medical Reserve Corps, and we were doing Crawford County Fair, and I happened to be doing the stands one night a few years ago for a big concert. They're having a Christian concert. I had a motive why I picked that night, because it's a Christian concert. Anyways, the police walking around, and they saw a guy with a backpack, and they started talking. Keep an eye on him, keep an eye on him. I go, oh, you know, it's here tonight. So if you see something suspicious, if somebody come up to that door at night with sunglasses on, you know, or backpack, or if you don't know the person, now they've taken precautions here. That's why I think that alarm is great. But there's something about that front door that I don't like. Does anybody know what it is? It's not that. It says there's a sign on that front door.
Oh, no firearms.
Yeah, no firearms. What's that tell a shooter?
Safest place to attack.
I mean, they have to have it there, but
Yes.
you know, that's kind of an invitation. If you have a gun in your possession and there is a shooting and the police are coming, get rid of that gun. Don't give it to Daisha. Get rid of the gun. Kick it out of the way, because when the police come in, they're all trained the same way. Okay, so say you have an incident here and Mill Creek Police show up, the Border Patrol shows up and Erie Police shows up. There'll be 3 cops. They all know how to do it. They know the routine. They're going after the shooter. They're going after the perpetrator. If you're holding a gun in your hand, you're going down. They're not asking questions. They're after the shooter. So when cops come in, you don't run up and hug the cops. You don't, thank God you're here. You do exactly what they say. You get your hands in the air and spread your fingers. Is a good idea. Okay, so you know those are things that really would help you in a situation like that. Oh, she mentioned the sign-in sheet. If you're having a group in here, they say don't take anything with you. Leave all your possessions and replace those. If you can, take the sign-in sheet with you, because that way you can account for people. Who's in there or not? Because does everybody know the exits out of this building? There's 2. Okay. So it's important that you know that, you know, so if you ever see anything suspicious, and I'm I'm doing this for the wellness center, but you know, think about other places you go. We go into a restaurant, my wife and I, guess where I sit. I'm facing the door. She sits down facing the door, so you've got to move. And there are places, I know we can't do this in this country, but there are countries that actually do, they're trained trained, people, and that's why they don't have some of the shootings that they do, they profile. And I'll give you one example, I don't know which country it was. There was a police officer on a bus, and a guy got on the bus, dressed as an Arab. And he shot and killed him.
Oh my gosh.
And he said, how did you know he wasn't? And he was armed. He was armed. They don't wear sneakers. Okay, so I mean, and he know that he was trained for that, and he knew something was odd, so you know, don't question yourself about, is this strange enough? Let somebody else sort that out, okay, let somebody else, always say something, and I'm gonna go back to an incident in a minute that may bring that home. Situational awareness is the last training I took. And the instructor said something that stuck with me, and I think we need to keep that in mind. One of the things, and you hear this all the time, and he said that you hear that he hears this all the time, and that is, never thought this was gonna happen here. Never thought this would happen here. We gotta stop thinking that way. We have to be aware, be prepared, and that's what the wellness center here is doing. Now, I'll bet the people in Butler, Pennsylvania, when Trump got shot, didn't think that would have ever happened there. I'll bet the people in Florida thought that would never happen down there. And that was on, that's the other thing about that. Somebody had to see something down there because that's on Interstate 95. And that guy was there for 12 hours, you know. So if you see something that's out of the ordinary, report it. You know, and let them take care of it. I would hate to think something's out of the ordinary and then something would happen. And have something happen and say, I could have prevented that. When the shooting happened about a month ago at that school, in Georgia, at Athlete High School in Georgia, I'll never forget one of the teachers saying that he heard a noise and he checked out in the hallway. I do not think that that's a good idea, because right after he closed the door, there was a knock on the door and the gunman showed up at that door. Okay, so I don't think that's a good idea. And then the other example I wanted to bring up was Uvalde, Texas, and we know how badly that should have never happened that way. Like I said, everywhere in this country, police are trained the same way. Okay, so anytime there's an active shooter incident, when the police come in, they're not gonna worry about the wounded. They're going after the shooter. So you just do exactly what they tell them. That doesn't matter where you're at. If you're in church, down below the seats or the pews, know the exits out of your church. Okay. Now, in 2017, I happened to be looking at some stuff today. In 2017, this is the latest statistics I have. There were 31 shootings. Anybody want to guess what they were? How many there were? Active shooters, I should say. Anybody want to guess what it was in 2021? More than double. 61, that's 52.5% increase from 2020 to 2021 in that 1 year time frame. Okay. So this is an unfortunate reality that we're living with. And there's a number of reasons for it, and we probably all have our different opinions of why it's happening, but unfortunately, we're having to live with that. So just to review, first of all, have an escape plan. Okay, this is if you run, all costs. First thing you want to do, this pamphlet is available online, by the way. And it's a FEMA pamphlet. It's called U.S. Department of Justice Federal Bureau of Investigation Active Shooter Event. It's a quick reference guide. You can get that right online and download it. Okay, so have an escape plan. Leave your belongings behind. You can always replace that. Leave them behind. Evacuate regardless of others agree to follow. That's the tough. Somebody said they don't wanna go. See you later. Okay. Help others escape if possible. And the same thing goes with calling 911. Make sure you call 911 if possible. You don't wanna be calling the 911 when the active shooter is right out in the hallway, because then they'll hear you. Or, plus you wanna silence your phone and silence the vibrator. I would turn the phone right off. My phone, if I knew it was an active shooter, I would hit the button to shut it down. Just my luck, I would have had it on ringer and not realized it. Okay. Do not attempt to move the wounded. Prevent others from entering the area, as I showed them. Presentation. Keep your hands visible. Call 911 when you are safe. That's for running. As I said, you got messed up like here for some reason. Anyways, hide behind anything that you can hide behind if possible. Like I said, if they're in church, under the seats, behind bookcases. And those things can also be used to put up against doors. These doors here, they actually now make sleeves that go right over those openings. Those top part bars, they actually make sleeves that go on. They recommend door locks. But when I talked to this instructor I know, and he made a good point. If you have door blocks, have them hung on the wall. Potentially, they get kicked around, and when you need them, they're not there. Okay. And put anything you can against the door. In this room, we kind of tough because it's all chairs, but best you can, try to put stuff against the door so they can't get in. Okay. Then if you have to fight, hey, again, I mentioned that earlier, fight is your last resort. And when your life is in imminent danger, attempt to incapacitate the shooter. Act with as much physical aggression as you can. Improvise weapons, throw items at the active shooter. Zero fire extinguisher.
No, but there's hand waves right down.
Oh, these would work. These would be good weapons. Oh, I would be, yeah. Yeah.
You get a workout.
These might be good weapons too. But the blankets.
Well, like the one guy was coming in, he was taking to the side with the fire extinguisher, throwing a coat over that guy's head, for someone had.
Oh.
Time to blind him.
And that's a good point.
Well, yeah, if they can't see them, it's not hard, they give you more chance to get.
You want to stand, use this one for an example. When he comes in, you want to be standing here. Because the minute he comes in, we're gonna start throwing stuff at him. Because a number of people can be on both sides, but you want to be on one side of the door where you can. And that you brought to mind when you said about throwing.
Like even this sweater, over their face was.
And that's a good point. Sometimes if you gotta caution, I know they have an alarm here, but you gotta caution of what you use that alarm for. Sometimes, because I asked this guy about that and this instructor, and if you use it for other things, it's not a good idea. However, usually in an active shooter or something like that, when you do something that they don't expect, it usually shuts it right down. When you do something that they do not expect you to do, so. Okay, and if you have to attack, commit to it, unfortunately, because your life depends on it. If you don't do something, okay, the police should be there quickly, but, they do need to get there first. And when law enforcement arrives, says remain calm and follow instructions. The remain calm part. There's a part that I can't even imagine. But follow instructions is important. Whatever they tell you to do. Drop items in your hands, bags, jacket, etc. Again, get rid of, if you have a weapon, get rid of it. There has been instances where, people have actually taken the shooter out, because they had a weapon. That was fortunate. However, if they still had that weapon in their hand, the police don't know if he's a shooter or not. He's going down. The one that just happened in Appalachia, Georgia, they took him down. The school resource officer took him down. He confronted him, so there was no further shootings, and then he was taken into custody. And I don't know if you know this, but his dad's being charged along with the same charges as he's being charged. Okay, raise your hands, spread your fingers, as I said. Keep hands visible at all times. Again, don't run up and hug the cop and thank God they're here. Avoid quick movements towards the officer. Well, I just said. Including holding on them for safety. Again, they're there for one reason only, and that reason is to take out that shooter, so. Yeah, avoid pointing, screaming, or yelling. I can't tell you that that won't happen. And do not ask questions when evacuating. And some of the information to report to the 911 operator when you can is the location of the active shooter, number of shooters, physical description of shooters as best you can. Okay. And that is really all I had. It's just a really quick overview, but I think it's sufficient enough to keep in mind a couple of things. Be aware when you're anywhere now. Don't just go into place casually. Look, where's the exits? If you're in a restaurant, well, I'm going out through the kitchen. Okay, or we're in a grocery store. How many exits are in a grocery store? Anybody know? Besides the main exit, that don't count. Right, you got bakeries, you got frozen foods, you got the meat department, dairy department, all kinds of exits down there. Because as I tell people, I've never seen a large truck deliver food to the front door. So, yeah, keep that in mind.
No, I just tossed in, I took this when I worked at a school, the state cops talked about spider spray. So in certain places, like I would have it in my office, if someone were to come, it goes very far when you spray spider spray. So if you're stuck in a situation where you would pop in, I wouldn't even realize it's poisonous. You shoot it at their eyes and before you know it, they can't see.
What is it?
Bear spray.
Bear spray juice, spider spray.
Whatever you need to
Yeah.
use, like that's a good one.
Yeah.
Whatever you need to use to stop it. I just taught CPR I graduated in '69 and this was nothing like this at that time. I mean, we had the racial stuff going on at that time and the schools were locked down, but nothing like where people were, in fact, people used to bring their guns to school because they were going hunting after school. So it wasn't uncommon. So I'm telling you that because a few weeks ago, I taught CPR at Seneca High School, and one of my students in there was some of the teachers was their school resource officer to see a police officer in a school, and you see that all the time now. And what these kids are seeing, there was one kid in the I was reading this morning that down to the latest shooting in Georgia. He said he would have lost his life if he'd been in a hall. He had been out of his classroom and he was in the bathroom at the time the shooter went through. Can you imagine what he's thinking? No kid should have to think that. None of our kids should have to think either. But unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with right now. Any questions? I hope I answered yours.
We have to go get my car.
Okay, I hope it was helpful to you. Thank you.
Yeah, get yourself in, Joe.
Oh, okay.
Gotta pick up my call for Carlos code.
But have a conversation, have this conversation, if you have it with your family, your kids.
We talked at one point, I'm sorry to interrupt you, about having a safe place from here so that we could kind of account for everybody once
Well,
they got there.
And that's a
We're
good
working on
point.
that.
That's a good point. You don't wanna, here's, I thought about that before I came in. I'm just gonna tell you what we used to do when I worked in a shop, and we had a fire drill and we were evaluated on those things all the time. We had about over 100 employees. There was a spot in the parking lot where everybody had to meet. And then it was their supervisor's responsibility to report to one of my emergency response people as to their all report. We always had that, in those fire drills, we always had 2 suicides. I always said that, we always had 2 suicides. Because the owner of the company and his son, the president, would refuse to leave the building. They wouldn't evacuate when they'd stay in their office, and so I always said we had 2 suicides.
Fire. When it was a real fire, not a drill. Then
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we were even evaluated by the fire department a couple of times on that, and so I agree with you, and I don't, and that's what the best I can say is that's why you have the sign-in sheet with you. Cause you've got people going out the 2 doors. You gotta have some way of communicating that I'm safe, I'm here. Friends of mine and the 3 of us went to a Steelers game a couple of years ago, and they were the ones, one of them, the one that prompted it. So, how are we gonna, if something happens, how are we gonna communicate if we get separated? And I just said, use your cell phone. We'll just communicate by cell phone. I'm over here, you can do that here too. I'm in the front of the building, once you're all safe,
Starbucks right up there.
I mean, yeah, it's not that far.
Well, I attended disaster training for air shows. And so if there's a catastrophe, we were told to shut the gates. You had to keep everybody in. Of course, everybody's running madly to the gate to get out. And you had to calm them down and keep them in. So you could, then they get on buses and go to a safe place. So you could count heads, families could reconnect and all of that. I can't imagine doing that in these days.
right, and what you're saying is a good point, because this is why I say have this conversation. And everybody should be taking, I always say, everybody should be taking these kinds of classes, so they know what to do, so you can calm down some of that. If nobody's taking one of these classes and they're still the mindset that'll never happen here, and all of a sudden it does, they're gonna freak out. And I'll tell you, I'll go back to my training as a safety officer on a medical disaster team. I've trained we've done disaster training in Texas once and 3 times in Anniston, Alabama. It's a big training facility there. We train all week long, and then we have a drill at the end of the week. Well, as I said, I'm the safety officer, and there was also a security officer, and we kind of work hand in hand on that. But it got to the point that we at the drills, we always expected them to throw a shooter at us. They did it in Texas, they did it in Alabama, and we're always standing there going, okay, well, in Alabama especially, they use actors and actresses down there. So the one day we're standing there talking, I said, what kind of situation are you gonna say today? And they come up to us and said, we're not doing that. Rest assured. Yep, okay, yeah, sure. They didn't, they were truthful, they threw a mental health patient at us. So they did that to see how it would respond, and I'll just tell you, the one in Texas, I never forget. I was standing at the perimeter of the field hospital, and every day when we had our morning meeting, every other day we would change the meeting place if something happens. Okay, so I'm standing here, triage is here, the tent's here, and the other tents are up this way. So the day before that, the meeting place was to my left, off the road. That morning, we changed it to off to the right of the one tent, further up from me. They had a shooter in the triage tent. So they evacuated everybody, and everybody's coming towards me, and I'm going, no! But even after that, I said, why didn't we shelter in place? The shooter was in the tent. Why everybody else was shelter in place? So that's the other thing too. you know, if the shooter's outside the building and you can secure the building, you want a shelter in place. Okay. And the other thing I will say here is, because I think there's not, staff here, but still and all, even then, if you're sitting at the desk and you see somebody at the door that's suspicious, don't let them in. Let Kim know, let Daisha know, you know, let somebody know. Up there. Because you've had a couple problems here with the homeless.
Just a minute, be right back, you go to the back room and call.
What's that?
I said, you say, just a minute, you go to the back room.
Now, see, that's thinking, that's a good point. I will be with you in 1 minute. And then let them decide. And if you even have, if it's suspicious, don't come back to the door right away, just call the police.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever they do, whatever procedure is. Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Oh, yeah, also, I didn't see, Jackie back, and don't throw the gun over to her. Don't throw the gun over to her either. Here, Jackie, hold this gun line. Okay, thank you. My pleasure. The reason I will say this, I got to thinking about this with the CPR and what I'm doing. I want to do more of this here. Here's the reason. I have a lot of training in all these areas and I'm retired. What do I do with all this? So I'm kind of passing it on, paying it forward. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, with that being said, Mike, is there anything of interest to anyone here that you'd like to learn more about? Doesn't even have to be related to the center necessarily.
I think it's the CPR class, so if you do that again.
Yeah, me too.
There is another training that it's available and I do have a slideshow.
Yeah, so
And
the
that's-
CPR, to be clear, it's not a certification class.
Right.
So if you're looking for certification, talk to Mike individually.
Yeah,
This course that we offered last time that we're planning to offer hopefully quarterly, right, Mike? We talked about, so look for that on the calendar. That is more of like a refresher course, just to help you feel a bit more prepared, not necessarily like an actual 3-hour certification kind of thing. So just think about that too. If you want to just be more prepared and ready in the chance of a emergency situation here, that's exactly what it's for.
it was a course I'm talking about. I can't think of the name of it right now. It's beyond me. Stop the bleed. Well, I couldn't think of it. I have a slide presentation on stop the bleed, if that's something you're thinking. Maybe, you know, I actually am an instructor in that, but I've never taught it, but it's a slide presentation and stands up, because you ever get in a situation where somebody's got gunshot wound, you know, a little Band-Aid is not gonna work, you know, you have to stuff down into a wound, gunshot wound, you can stuff a tampon in. You know, different things that's a good program. Cause you never know where you're gonna be at. You realize that I'm an emergency medical responder, I'm trained in mass casualty. However, every one of you can encounter a mass casualty. One car accident, 2 people, just you, that's a mass casualty.
What about indoors open house? So if they installed some kind of a lock on the inside, like, you know, come across and lock.
You can
we would be
also
able to lock.
like try to see if shoving a chair under, so they under the phone, put the thing down.
That one opens out, that one opens out.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
If
like
you had room,
the hotel, you have, you know, those weird ones that, you know.
I guess I'm surprised they put doors in like that, this scene, because hitting and doing no good to put stuff up against that.
You know,
Right.
fine if you can have a room.
Right.
You can do it. You can
For
put
emergencies,
stuff up.
But what I was gonna suggest
Go exit.
is sticking a broom through the handle, but that door is out. If it was flush, you can put a broom through the handle, but it's not flush.
But they might sell some type of device that would be hooked to the frame, hooked to the door that you could go up and just.
Yeah, that's a difficult one.
You can put a chair in that chair thing you put it in the handle and then twist it,
Right.
and that will stop it from opening.
You can do something, you put the dead door on.
We can't really ever get that door open anyway, because
From
the other door.
Yeah. Oh, the other door.
I think some of
Hopefully,
the
let's-
locks and such, we are looking into that, so we'll have more updates, you know, as we kind of continue to move down the safety route. There are different, I know where I worked, we had things that you kind of wedged under the handle. That was
Yeah.
hanging next
See,
to
I
it.
would
So
have,
we put it next to the door, easily grab it off and then put it underneath the
yeah,
door.
you could do that on if it was flush to the wall, but
Mhm.
it sits back.
Yeah,
So I knew what yeah.
yeah, and some doors lock and some don't, so I think that there's just a couple different.
This way you're thinking where your door and the frame.
I wanna say it wouldn't happen here, but I think that I will compliment them here because they're taking steps with that security on the front door. I don't know, like, any place that I go into that I see, you know, where you get buzzed in, you know, like that, so I think that's great, that's a good step. And like she said, I think that's a good procedure, if you see somebody suspicious at the door you've never seen before, just say, I'll be with you in a minute. And then always go to the back, even though nobody's there, and then call Jim or Daisha
For 911.
or 911. You know, it's never gonna hurt to call 911. Better to be, it's better to have them here and not delay that. Okay.
I was gonna say too, the one thing about churches is that they feel offended when you say that. But we had an incident where a young man came and wanted money. And he was refused, so he said, you know, he threatened a few people. And some of the deacons thought it was like, you know. I said, call the police, I mean, that was a threat, that was and the authorities should have been called. Because you don't know if he was serious, but he was on drugs.
Yep.
And, you know, so we have, so I'm definitely gonna get your information, cause I'm like,
Yeah,
they say I was American.
did you say that people were upset because they didn't take it serious or?
Well, you know, because it's a church setting, this young man was coming for help, and he was told, no, he was referred to another agency, but he just felt the church should have just gave him. And he threatened a few people there.
You know, that's a good point. Just keep in mind, the people that are looking for money, everybody's gotta make their own decision on what they do. I do something a little different. I give them a McDonald's card.
Okay.
But there's every day in this city, you can get lunch, breakfast and dinner somewhere. And I taught CPR to City Mission and they asked us to stay for lunch. That lunch could have been lunch and dinner.
Exactly.
You know, so there's places, everybody can get fed. We have somebody at our church every Sunday. I don't know how and why they do it every Sunday. But she's out there every Sunday collecting money,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm never going to.
Well, it's usually you kind of know when they're a drug user.
Well, that's the problem with that. You don't know, and when you mention drug, I don't know if you know this, but Erie per capita is the highest drug overdose in the entire state of Pennsylvania. Yes. And I have my own theory on that. Think about where we're at. Buffalo, Cleveland, 90, Pittsburgh, 79. Yeah.
They're like the meat of the sandwich, the fast food.
Everything that happens in Erie, you know, we've had a number of things happen in Erie, but.
In this case, if somebody took a picture, I mean, not right in front of his face, that if he went next door and robbed somebody, that you might say, hey, look at this guy. You know, where you want to say, hey, I'm sorry.
Or I take pictures of license plates too. Like,
Yeah.
And it's like, what'd you just do?
Somebody told me to go in front of my house, I just went to the window and I put my phone there and I get the video and it just.
That's like,
So at least I got a picture of the car. And they were weird.
that's how they caught that guy down in Florida, that somebody took,
Yeah.
took a picture on, that was a smart move.
Yeah.
No,
Being aware. We all have to be more alert these days.
Of your surroundings. Try to remember the details of their face and names and college, you know. Just put your video on.
You look very casual.
Yeah. In your purse.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Yeah, and Jackie keeps referring to me as a field training officer, and I'm complimented by that, but I'm not anymore.
You once were and you still are. You're a field officer here.
Okay. We'll do it again.
I know you would, and we recorded you, so there's that. Stop recording.
I forgot that we were recording. I said all these things I know.
Sarah, do you want to tear us out or?